Today I have Meghann Conter to share with everyone, and I'm so excited. I'm going to give you a little background about who we are and what we're here to do, and then we'll hand things over to Meghann to share her brilliance. My name is Jennifer Fry, and I'm the CEO of Appreciated Asset Business Solutions, where we create, build, and fill sales pipelines for industry disruptors. Industry disruptors is really important. Businesses that are standing out from the status quo in their industry, businesses that are providing service that is so far superior to what's always been that industry standard, is what we're here to do. Help people become disruptive and help people really message to their ideal prospects how they are disruptive. And because we're in business to build business, everything that we do helps our clients grow their businesses. I realized that there's a lot of other solutions out there. And over the years, I've met some incredible people who also have expertise that helps businesses grow as well. So I wanted to create this platform to highlight all of those amazing minds and share with everyone how other solutions and other levels of expertise out there can help you bring more revenue into your business. Because the bottom line is there are no problems in a business that more revenue cannot solve. I have yet to find one. Even if it's a human problem, more revenue can help because it can help you get better resources and better team. If it's a client problem, again, better training, more time. So that revenue is so deeply important to your business's health and longevity. Okay, so Meghann.
Yes.
I'm going to read your bio, but before I do, I'm going to share with you guys how I know this beautiful creature. So we got introduced like 3 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, Meghann, I think it was like
2020.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago because I was introduced to Meghann. I had a friend who was killing it in her business, and I was just like, just tell me what you're doing, and I'm going to do that. Like, instead of me reinventing this wheel, what are you doing? It's working. I'm going to do this. She said, well, you've got to join a group called the Dames. And the Dames, I will explain to you guys everything that they do. But at the time, I did not qualify in my business because of our revenue numbers to join the Dames. So Meghann was so warm and inviting and sweet, but I just was not at a level yet to be a member, and was like, okay, hold my iced coffee. And about 4 months later, I think, I made it happen. And I've learned a lot of things by being a member of this group, but the Dames is an international women's networking group that is dedicated to helping 6 and 7 and even 8-figure businesses survive and thrive. And I'm going to read to you guys all about that in a minute, but I'm going to tell you what it's done for me. Okay, so vulnerability time. I grew up going to all girls education for my high school, middle school, and high school. And there was a lot of mean girl behavior, like a lot of it. And I was taught that you had to compete over collaborate. And I was taught in order to stand out, you had to be number one, and you had to do that by stomping on someone else. And while, no, those weren't the messages I was given directly, it was certainly the nuances of the behavior that was happening that we were learning. And so I would tell you guys that up until probably my 30s and 40s, I had a really complicated relationship with women because I knew that it could be like this. I knew it should be like this. I'll correct that. I knew it should be like this. I never knew it actually could be, right? Where we can collaborate over compete with each other. And it has been a game changer for me to surround myself with people, and in this group, but not everywhere, but in this group, women that celebrate my wins with the same enthusiasm they celebrate their own. And that hold space for me in my lows with zero judgment. It's changed my life. And so I mentioned this on our call last week when I had Danielle Margraf on, but I would tell you guys, the biggest thing that you can do for yourself in your personal and professional development is find a tribe. Find your people that truly are cheering for you. that are speaking your name in the room when you're not there, that have your back, that believe in you. And Meghann has created that community. So thank you for what you've done for me personally, for my business. I have created friendships in this group that have changed everything for me. So thank you.
Thank you.
And you have also taken the taboo off of women wanting to be successful, right? It's not ladylike to be ambitious. It's not ladylike to want to make a lot of money. It's not ladylike to be a breadwinner, right?
Not
But
ladylike to be a disruptor either.
right, yeah. No one ever accused me of being ladylike, so I think we're good. You know, I think when you look at what you've created here, it goes so far beyond what we do on our calls and our interactions, because the ripple effect that it creates. And it's not just that, it's the vibe. It is the energy that we bring from each other and from that space to everything else that we do.
Absolutely.
And you've also changed the game for me in networking. So I'm going to shut up here. I'm going to read her bio. I could wax on about this lady for a really long time, because she has put relationship over transaction and taught others to do the same. And so without further ado, all right, Meghann Conter uses her power to connect, elevate, entertain, and celebrate extraordinary women as the CEO of the Dames, a global community designed specifically for women running and leading 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses. Meghann believes that anything can be accomplished through fearless collaboration, laughter, fun, and love. Once a burnt out, over networked CEO, she is now the global ultra connector for women who thrive in the space where self-worth and net worth align. You can learn more about the Danes and about Meghann at thedanes.co, but I'm going to hand things over to you before I just take over this entire hour telling everyone about what this has done for me. So Meghann, take it away. Tell us all about the Danes and how you got here.
Yes, thank you so much, Jen. And this is what always happens. I'm such a in the moment, just drop in divine messages. So while you were talking about being disruptive and becoming disruptive, this 3 points came up. You have to be willing to be different, to be definite, and to be daring. That just came through. You have to be willing to differentiate yourself from everyone else who does what you do. You have to be willing to have a different niche than what everybody else has, and to really niche up, like Ellen Malcolm-Moore in the Dames talks about. And you have to be willing to be definite and certain, even if that definite certainty changes and you get more and more clarity. You have to get to that point of clarity where you're definite and you're certain. And then you have to be daring. I have had, since I was a child, a very theatrical personality. I've been doing accents since I was a little kid. I was, the lead in the musical when I was in kindergarten, and it's been like that ever since. And then I went through a period of time from college through until I was 40, when I told myself that I had to be corporate-y when I was in corporate, or I had to be businessy when I was in business. And what that meant was I was leaving most of myself out. And what I hated most about being in corporate, what I disliked most about being in corporate, was that what you were saying, in my experience, there were a lot of women clawing at each other for the very few positions that we could get at the top. And that was what I experienced from other women. When I had experienced something very different younger, I had always had female friends and had grown up with, I have the same 2 best friends I've had since I was 4. I did get into an awkward teenager phase where, I wasn't the most popular, so therefore I was a band nerd and yada, yada, and all that. So I have worked through a lot of, some of that trauma, but it wasn't until I really got to corporate that I realized, oh, wow, these women will throw me under the bus before they even utter my name. And I had a very different experience within days of starting my business. Like going to a leads group when I hadn't even known what owning a business was. I was encouraged by several entrepreneurs to start a consulting business in marketing and to get out there in 2009. So I like created some business cards. I was just like, all right, we're going to do this. And within days, I was at my first leads group, not even understanding what that was. And what I experienced was women who were there to support me, who were like, oh my gosh, yes, we can tell that you're an expert in marketing and PR. And I would be talking to others and I'd realize, oh yeah, you're an expert in XYZ. And so just that camaraderie came back around again. And I was like, oh, now I know why I didn't like corporate and why I'm supposed to be a business owner and why the universe led me here. So I just find that to be interesting because I think women all have our own stories. That's my point. We all have our own stories that we bring in. And when I was early in business, I was kind of like your typical business owner. I will do anything and everything in marketing. That means I will design things in Photoshop and in InDesign, and I'll be your graphic designer, and I will help you with my team work on your website, and I'll help you come up with email strategies, and I'll help you, gosh, create flyers for the local coffee shop. And I mean, I was like everywhere and anywhere. And then I was there right at the inception of social media. So I would also started taking all the classes in social media. And that's when I was like, okay, social media is here to stay. So I'm going to focus on social media. But I was still working with any service-based business, which, as we know, is a really broad cast. And the more and more I grew in my business, the more focused I got, the more niched in I got, the more honed in I got on my expertise and what it was that I loved. Morphed into 2012 into being a marketing and branding consultant and coach, helping women business owners get from 6 to 7 figures, especially those who were pioneers. That's what I used to call it, as you call disruptors, but pioneers in their industry who were really trying to break the norm of the ways that things had been done in their industry, help themselves figure out, how do I do this in a way that aligns with me and my feminine energy? Because something that we talk about often in the Dames is this concept of having balanced masculine and feminine energy, so that when you approach things, you're not coming to the table burnt out, and you're not coming to the table hustling and grinding or trying to follow the way that our male counterparts can do things, because most of us with, lacking that blend of divine feminine and masculine energy, we realize that once we stop just constantly being in action and we start opening up to receive, and we start creating space so that we can be creative again, we actually find that our lives are more interesting, more aligned, more exciting. So I was really working with those clients to help them get their brands and their business, their packaging, their pricing, their positioning of their offerings back in balance and back in alignment with them and what their higher desires were, and that big picture vision and that why and all of that. Really enjoyed doing that work. I felt a deep significance in that work. And I helped transform hundreds of women business owners' businesses so that they could catapult by having a really solid branding and marketing foundation. And at that time, I was leading other people's networking groups. I was, the president of my leads groups, 2 of them. I was leading 3 different chapters of another networking organization here in Denver. And I was over networked. So I would go to networking events 5 days a week. I was single. I would just sometimes 2-3 times a day. I had stacks and stacks of business cards. I just didn't know what I was doing in terms of, the lack of follow-up that I had was real too.
Mhm.
So that was when I joined a mastermind, and I was part of that group, and they started introducing this topic of strategic partnerships. And they taught it in a very specific way. And I got a lot out of that. And what I decided was I'm going to stop all networking. I'd like to say I put myself in my own networking witness protection program. And I stopped networking for like 18 months. And I went into my little shop. And as a human design projector 1-3 profile, I got in there and I really did research and I really found out what's going on, because I was growing my 6-figure business to the 7-figure mark. And I'm like, I can't find many high 6-figure women business owners. And I certainly am not finding any 7-figure women business owners. Why is that? Like, I want to grow a business to a point where I have employees that I can give these amazing jobs to and that I can support. I want to get to this point where the culture that I envision for my company is embodied by all my team. I want to get to the point where I envision, the trajectory and the paradigm of business completely shifting. And number one, it's going to be really hard to do that one-on-one for the next however many years, as I was doing in my marketing business. Number two, and this is 2015, I'm starting to look and find stats that only 2% of women-owned businesses get to the 7-figure mark. I'm like, why is that? So I really started tinkering. I started doing focus groups and really learning about what was going on in the field of women owning businesses.
Mhm.
And at the same time saying, right, I want to totally change the way that I'm networking to be far more effective. So using the mastermind concept that I had gained and my branding and marketing background, that was when I started creating this power partner concept and teaching people how not only to figure out who their best power partners are, but also what are the reasons for power partnering, and then what are the results that they get in their business from doing this, and how can we network less and have more results, positive results. That was what I was in my little shop, my networking witness protection program, figuring out. We launched in 2015 with events here in Denver because I had to get proof of concept. The other thing I forgot to mention is that I hated most networking events because they were boring. They were like sitting and watching a paint dry on a wall. And I hated that. So I'm like, all right, well, we're going to do something totally different. And I asked these women who are running, most of them like $250,000 businesses and bigger. I'm like, what do you feel is missing? And that's how I designed our extravaganzas, which was all that we had in the very beginning for the first 2 years. Started having these reverse mullet form events, which is the party in the front with, spotlighting female comedians, improv troops, humor forward speakers, bringing the women together to connect and really let their hair down, break open through laughter, be able to connect deeply, and then have inspiration from women running 7-figure businesses. Because once you make it a point to find them, then you find them. So I was able to start finding those women, and we would bring them in and have them earn the Dame of Influence Award, which we still do today. So that then evolved into, as we grew and grew here in Denver and outgrew venues, it evolved when one day I sat down in meditation and had full-blown visualization of the Dames as an international organization and incubating women business owners. So we started building the online platform and launched that in 2017 with our virtual membership, bringing members in, started launching new chapters in 2018. And now we have 7 in-person chapters in the US and a virtual membership that spans the globe with women on 6 continents and all over the US. And we provide so much more now than we did back then. We really are this incubator for the personal and professional growth and greatness of women owning their businesses and women who are leading teams at the corporate level as well. And we really are here because we believe that women are here to change the paradigm of business. And we are here to disrupt all of our industries with the expertise that we bring and the unique flair that we bring it with. And that brings us to present.
So we're going to do our, thank you for that. I'm going to ask you the 3 questions that I ask every guest, usually after like their jam, but I think we're going to make this more of a back and forth conversation because I have questions. And guys, let me also mention, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. It is really my favorite part of these sessions because that's when you have access to these brilliant minds to ask whatever it is that you want. And you also have an opportunity to ask anonymously if that's more comfortable for you. I just found that out last week when someone did that. I was like, that is cool. So total safe place to ask your questions, but if you don't want your name, that's cool too, and just put it as an anonymous.
Please, love to have
and
fun with
if Meghann can rattle through my billion questions that I want to go through with her, then we will get to you, I promise. Okay, so Meghann, how does your expertise, how do the Dames, how does being part of an organization like this, because we got some dudes on here, right? So it's not there's women and men need the same things. How does this bring more revenue into a business?
Yes. So I'll talk about it from a strategic place, but what really bounced into my mind when you were talking about it earlier, saying it's really important that you find your tribe, I would add, it's important that you find your tribe that has a complementary culture to you.
Mm-hmm.
So for the men, there are plenty of groups out there. It's important that you find one that's complementary with you and your culture. We are not for everybody. You know, we have that humor element. It's not infused in every single little thing, but it is important to me that women get out of serious every now and then. We spend a lot of time in serious mode. We spend a lot of time in overdrive, and that get out of serious that I bring in and that a lot of our teams and our chapters bring in is that humor and laughter that we really know all the medical benefits for, and that really help us live a better life and really help us take ourselves a little bit less seriously, you know, and really enjoy ourselves. So that's an element of our culture that some people, it might rub the wrong way. For instance, we're also woo friendly. So that might, that might rub some people the wrong way too. Doesn't mean that we're constantly, sniffing sage and pulling cards at every call or anything like that. We are woo friendly. And then we like to say that we have just the right amount of dick jokes. So it's just a funny thing. It's one of those things that happens. They're not insulting. They're just, zany and fun. Again, we like to have fun. And we mean business. That's the other thing. We are all about strategic growth and making sure that you're not engaging in the hustle, grind, burnout culture, which is very easy to do because you look anywhere and there is hustle, grind, burnout, period.
Yeah.
Just as like a metaphor, I quit drinking 7 years ago. And one of the hardest things to deal with after being a gray area drinker and choosing not to drink anymore was that after that, I would notice it everywhere. And so it's really hard to stay away from something or to shift a pattern when it's all around you. It takes a lot of self-control, discernment, etc. It's no different in business. Everywhere around us, there's this culture, this glamorized, version of being an entrepreneur that says that you're just gonna work 1,000,000 hours and you're gonna, hit the tech boom and you're gonna all this stuff. And it's really not, it's not sustainable, and it's especially not sustainable for feminine energy. So back to thinking about that from yes, we all need a tribe, and that tribe should match our culture. So that's a little bit about our culture in the Dames. And then when you come into the Dames, the way that we help our business owners get more business, there's many ways, but what helps us stand apart from everyone else is to help our members understand who they should become power partners with, build those long-term relationships, and then learn how to nurture and activate those relationships ongoing. So if it's okay, I'd like to show my screen to show a a demo so that this can kind of start sinking in. Oh, I can't, I don't have participant share.
Oh, can we make that happen, Joey?
Yep, give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm going to show this from a perspective of how it works.
Yeah, you should be able to now.
Yep, I gotcha.
Perfect.
I just had to switch screens here. All right, so in the dramatized way of describing this, you would probably, and you've probably experienced this before. You go into most networking events, and while people might be really nice or they might be really excited, they're usually trying to sell you their stuff. So you or another person is walking into this networking organization, or they're walking into this online community, and they're looking for that golden egg, that potential client. And so they're out there screening, scanning. Are you my next client? Are you my next client? And then if you're the participant receiving this, you're feeling like you either have a target on your forehead or your back, because everyone's just trying to sell each other their stuff. This is what I experienced for years in Denver. And then I would go to other places and experience the same damn thing. So part of that incubator that I put myself in, or the networking witness protection program, was to say, what if we got rid of that completely? And what if instead we wiped that off the table? So as you can see the red line through it here, and we tried something completely different. So now you can see on the lower half of this graphic,
Hey,
the new networking community building, we call it, because there's nothing harder to do than to destigmatize a word like networking. So what I try to do, even though we have to use networking so that Google recognizes us, is to say we are community, we are community, and we are helping you build community in the DAMES. So in our community, in our concept, you are coming into the organization to meet your golden geese. These are your DAMES power partners. In other words of a power partner, that's a collaborator, it's a thought partner. Some people call it sometimes a referral partner, sometimes a strategic partner, sometimes a business bestie. All those things are your golden geese. And what do golden geese do? They lay golden eggs. So when you and your power partners collaborate, you have this infinite possibility to lay so many golden eggs, infinite amounts of golden eggs together. And those golden eggs take form in problem solving, celebrating wins, masterminding with your peers in order to solve those problems, or really to add fuel to your fire, add fuel to your movement toward your goals, to form collaborations, and to cross promote and cross refer. So there are endless possibilities that can exist within these power partners. But the only way that this concept works is if you are in a community or in a tribe where there is a shared culture. So within the DAMES, our shared culture is in these clouds at the top. You have got to be vulnerable in order to be real. Let's just say it that way. If I walk around as a leader acting as though everything is peachy keen, absolutely perfect, 24/7, I believe that is a complete disservice to my entire community, because I know that I have days that suck. And I know that everyone does. And so when I have those days or those years or those months, I compartmentalize, I pull in all that information, and then I share with the DAMES, here's what I've learned from that. And me being vulnerable gives everybody else the permission to do so as well. Similarly, in order to connect well, we need to be vulnerable. We need to share what's going on with us personally and professionally, because those days when we just don't show up feeling like ourselves, if we can be vulnerable and share that, it's a heck of a lot better for all parties involved. The next is reciprocity, which in the universal law of reciprocity, this is not tit for tat. And that's where I think that some organizations are a little bit off on the concept of reciprocity. Everything in the DAMES, you could put radical in front of it and it would be far more who we are.
Mhm.
So radical reciprocity means if you put out there into the community, you serve others, that service is going to come back to you in some way. And that is not tit for tat. So Jennifer might reach out to Sally Sue and she might say, hey, I have a great connection for you. And that might be a potential client for Sally Sue. Now, Sally Sue might not have a connection for Jennifer at that time, but Sally Sue might reach out to Kimmy G and she might say, hey, I saw you post about this challenge you're having in your business. And I just went through that same thing like 2 weeks ago. And I have a lot of ideas for you. Would you like to get on a call? Awesome. And then Kimmy G might reach out to KDP the next week and say, hey, I have a power partner that you need to know. And she's the same exact target market as yours. And she's a COO and you're a CMO. I'm going to connect the two of you because you're going to be able to be great referral partners for each other. That is how reciprocity works in practice. And then diversity. If you have, I mean, some people say, well, 6, 7, and 8 figure businesses, that's pretty specific. That's, yes, it's the top 12 to 15% of women-owned businesses. It's not that many of us. Most women business owners are ranging between 25,000 and 87,000 in revenue on an annual basis. That's the average, or that's more than the average. That's about 87% of women-owned businesses. So you have to have this diversity of experience, expertise, industries, race, religion, creed, everything, preferences, all of this to come together and to really get different perspectives on solutions and to create a rich environment that is part of the culture. Collaboration, Jen already covered this at the very beginning. This is, if competition was a thing of the 90s and before, this is the thing of now and forevermore. You have to be able to collaborate with others in order to be successful as a woman, because women are by nature community oriented and we help each other. That's what we do by nature. And if you're not feeling that love and if you're not feeling that or that nature about yourself, it's probably because there's a story that's old that's running the show, like Jen was talking about earlier. And I highly recommend working with a coach or a therapist to really clean that up. Because once you can, and once you can really lean into collaboration, you find that the world's a far more abundant place. And that there are plenty of leads in business to go around. And last, what we talked about, which is fun. And fun is that culture that we give of getting out of serious and that option of being, who you are. And whether that's quirky, whether that's wooey, whether that's, quote unquote, inappropriate, whatever the case may be, we are not, we always make sure that there's room for that element of fun. So once you get into these relationships, the output, and actually I want you to ask me the next question because that will help me move into this, unless of course you have any questions about.
Yeah, no, I was going to say authenticity needs to be on that list also, because that is, and it's part of kind of a lot of those different pieces in the vulnerability, I think.
It's part of vulnerability. Authenticity is a really overused word. So but you're right. It needs to be in the definition.
Yeah, just because what I found is it's the level of authenticity that these people show up with, that they are magnetic. When someone shows up exactly as they are, not as how they want you to think they are, not as how they think they should be, but just here I am, take it or leave it. They are so magnetically attracted to everyone else in that space who's also able to show up that way. So you're right. You got to do your work, right? You've got to show up in a way where you can be self-aware and be ready to kind of move past those past traumas
Yes.
and know that just because it's always been that way, it doesn't have to be that way going forward. We can do better and we can break those generational, uh, stories that we were told.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to make sure we get enough time to ask, get some audience questions here. So guys, please make sure to drop them in if you have them. How are you a disruptor in your space?
Yes. So what I want to say before that, though, is how does this actually bring more revenue into their businesses?
Oh,
Because
right.
we talked about, that's okay. We talked about that, building power partnerships can give you more revenue, but I want to talk about how. So oftentimes we get caught up in the concept of these collaborators, these thought partners, these referral partners. We call them our referral partners, which is very limiting in my opinion. That is a great way of bringing in revenue. However, I have found some of the other reasons for power partnering to be far more influential in revenue generation for me and my business. And I've found hundreds of others who believe in this as well. So I don't want you to limit yourselves by thinking that a power partner is just there to cross refer, because that is one tiny piece of this big pie. So a couple of different things. And in the DAMES, you take the power partner archetype quiz. And within that, you kind of learn what's your superpower and what is it that you are best at when it comes to collaborating with others, when it comes to having power partners. And so for some people, they are phenomenal masterminders. These are the women that I have collaborated with, and men that I've collaborated with, who I can come to with a concept that's not fleshed out, a problem that has been unsolvable, a goal that I have that seems so big, hairy, and audacious. And I can say, help me deconstruct this, help me construct this. And the brainstorming, ideating power that happens there is like things that I can then take, and I've taken and go and I implement, and boom, 50,000, boom, 100,000, boom, 200,000 in revenue that gets generated because we are each other's creative, leaning into our creativity as women. We're leaning into that innate energy with each other to generate these ideas. We are one person. We are limited to our perspectives, our perceptions, the experiences that we've had. And when we can open that up and ask one person or many other people, like we do on our think tank circles, what would you do? Now it takes the shackles off of the ideas and ways that you've generated revenue in the past, for instance, if we're just talking about generating revenue. Another one would be collaborations. Many people are serving the same target market, doing things that are very complementary with each other. And we try to be all things to all people. And I have found that the more hats you try to wear, the less revenue you make. The more hats you try to wear, the less revenue you make. So if you can niche down to being the expert in your area of expertise, instead of saying like what the old Meghann Conter did when she first started her business, I can do your graphics and your flyers, and I can help you build your website, and I can also help you get the park bench signs, and I can help you with the, gosh, I would do anything, right, to get $100.
Well, and it's also, who do you work with, right? Like, oh, anyone who, I love when you say anyone that has skin.
Yes, yes. And exactly. Who do you work with? Any professionals? Well, geez, that narrows it down. Thanks. But that was me. That was young in business. That's why the DAMES is 100K and above, because you have gotten past those stages. You've gotten past that limited viewpoint. You've gotten past that space of, gosh, I need to pay the bills, and so I will work with anyone who has a pulse. All right. So if we can get past those things and we can get to that space of knowing what our area of specialty is and knowing where we are really strong, then that makes it easier to put out our elbow and, link arms with the person who's swimming in the lane right next to us, working with that same exact target market, AKA women-owned businesses who are generating between 500,000 and 2 million in the space of STEM, in STEM-based businesses. And, you're a COO and the woman swimming next to you in the lane is a CMO. You can collaborate to create new offerings for that target market. You can collaborate to come together on projects. You can collaborate to create, different series, like what you're doing here with the Disruptor series. All of those things are different collaborations that are much more possible in your breadth and the range of people that you receive or that you reach, that's the word, is broader when you collaborate with somebody else and you increase your target markets and you increase your reach with that same target market. And then last, which comes, I say last because it takes the most amount of time to build the trust for most women to be able to get to that point where they're like, yes, we have an aligned audience. I would love to cross promote for you. Whatever you have going on, I want to share it out there because our audiences are very similar. And also, therefore, you're going to get referrals from me because I've developed this know, like, and trust with you where I understand who your ideal clients are, who they're not, where I'm probably in front of those people a little bit more often, or if I'm not, I will still continue to help you self-promote or cross-promote. And, there's ways of actually doing that exchange, which obviously generate revenue, but the whole world knows about referrals partners, right? That's just the one that I speak about last because it's the one that's done most. And I think it's the one that is sometimes approached hastily and needs to be approached much slower. There are other ways that we can power partner and get to know each other before we are ready to trust each other with our Rolodexes. Not that I'm dating myself or anything, but I did have a Rolodex in my first job. So, that's the way it goes. So now the other question.
So, well, thank you, Meghann. You want to just take over? How are you a disruptor? I mean, I could give you about 10 ways because I still do a lot of networking. I really enjoy it. I'm extroverted. I am a projector as well.
Yep.
I enjoy a lot of different kinds of networking, but networking with the dames has made me much more intentional about the rooms that I put myself in because, I find that when I play best in the sandbox with other businesses that are at a similar level to my business.
Yep.
Because we have similar challenges and similar things that we're all dealing with, and so there's a bit of camaraderie there.
Absolutely.
So, how are you disruptive? How is the dames disruptive?
What I want to say is thank you for bringing that up because I network again too. And when I came back out as a networker out of the witness protection program, I did so in a very much more strategic way. So I would at that time network with other people who are complementary to my industry and did have a similar target market as well. So instead of going to a networking event, and this is how you can do this in real life, instead of going to a networking event and meeting anyone and everyone, I would go directly to the organizer and I would say, who are the COOs in here? Who are I was a CMO at the time, basically. Who are the women in PR, the men in PR? Who are the male bankers, the male CFOs, the female CFO? Who are those people in this room? And I would have that person take me directly to them. I would network and I still network to meet my power partners, never my clients. And it always works because they're always my golden geese and we lay golden eggs together. So that's just like taking it into the practical. And to your note about working with those at a similar level, 100%. And that's something that I didn't mention, which is we tend to collaborate with different people, with other people at different stages of our business in different ways. So if we're at that 100K to 250K level, we tend to collaborate with the goal of cross-referring and cross-promoting. When we start getting past those initial stages and we're past the $250,000 mark, we start realizing, oh, there's a lot more here. And I have to really start getting everything else in my business in check. So I'm going to need to work with some people to help me get my processes. I need to figure out what I'm doing with HR. I need legal. I need finance. I need all these things. And I've got to start building up myself as a business owner. So hence the masterminding and really the meeting with and collaborating with and hiring different people who can help me with those areas of expertise. That's what makes me a better business owner. But we don't start thinking about those things until we're really at the 500K mark and above. And that's when that becomes really important. So different stages of business give different needs for collaboration. And that's why I love what you said, that people at similar stages, it's really necessary. And that's what you can do in the DAMES, is find those people who are at your level. So that's one way that we're disrupting the industry is we've created this strategic matchmaking system where if you come into the DAMES and say, hey, I'm running a $750,000 marketing agency, who do you have that's running a 7-figure or larger marketing agency that I could meet with and talk to and ask her some questions? And we check in with that person, make sure that that's a mentor-mentee fit, or perhaps, it's a newer business owner and they want to meet with people who are in those complementary industries who they could have to support them and who could cross promote with them and they could support. We can make those matches for our members based on where they are. Or we have a lot of 7- and 8-figure women business owners who are like, I am an expert in my field. I am alone all the time. And I just need other women who get it, who have a team constantly suckling at them. And I just want to be able to talk to them and really see how they're coping with this and what are the healthy coping ways. Can you match me up with some other women like that? So that is how we're disrupting, is by saying, you don't have to come in and seek and search and look, because some people aren't the extroverts that you and I are. So that's really the number one way that we are disrupting our industry, is saying, hey, you need to get on this power partner bandwagon and start building these relationships now, because they don't come to fruition right away. They take years at times to really get to fruition. They take commitment. Like Jen,
Well, this isn't short game, right? It's not about a transaction.
Just like social media, the first time you posted or the second time you posted or the third time you posted, did that guarantee that you were filling your pipeline every single time? Heck no. In order to get results from anything, you have to be committed to it and you have to be regular with it. You have to be consistent and you have to know how to ask. And that's something that we spend a lot of time in the DAMES too. But I'd love to hear your thoughts if you know of anything else that I didn't mention of why we're disruptors.
I mean, I think you've covered it, but more than anything, I believe that you've created and curated a space for women where achievement and ambition is celebrated rather than judged.
Yep. Yeah.
And where it's safe to say, I want to make a lot of money. I want to do this. Not I need to, but I want to. A lot of times I've been reading lately about needs versus wants and how we always say we need things because then it justifies to other people. Because if you just want something, that sounds selfish and that sounds greedy. But we are allowed to have wants and desires and be multifaceted, right?
I love that part of 10X is easier than 2X. Like,
yes,
I want to run a multi-million-dollar business. And the reasons are not because I'm a money-grubbing person.
right. Yeah.
But we have been fed this Devil Wears Prada version of a woman who gets to the top, becomes a she-beast. And that's not true. Conversely, there are women in the DAMES who are like, I'm about to retire in the next 5 years. I don't want to run a multi-million-dollar business. I want to get something that's sustainable for me now so that I can enjoy my last years of business. And I want to feel safe to say that I don't want a 7-figure revenue. So it's just as important on both sides. Like, you be what you want to be, you do what you want to do, you want what you want to want. Don't want what I want, because that'll just, you'll start climbing that mountain and be like, where is the freaking trail? Because it's not your path. So it's about having that freedom and that space to get in touch with what it is that you want for yourself and your family and what's important to you and what your values are and what you're creating. And I think that's that space of vulnerability that's so much more important even than authenticity. You can have authenticity without having vulnerability. You cannot have vulnerability without being authentic. You just can't.
100%, yes. What's the number one thing we can do today that we can do to drive more revenue?
Start building your power partner network now. And if you haven't reached out to the people who are your power partners in a while, go back and start reaching out to them. And if you don't know how to do this, this is what we teach in the DAMES from the ground up to help you build a system so that you can follow it, so you can track it. Just like any other good marketing strategy, you've got to be able to track your results, see what's working, see what's not, make those adjustments. But the easiest thing you can do is be building quality relationships with power partners. Stop hunting for the golden egg. Start building valuable long-term relationships with your golden geese. Serve them first. Always serve them first. Serve first, serve often, serve well. And that's the best thing you can do for your business.
I 100% agree with you. And if anyone here wants to take this off the call and connect with Meghann, she's got her LinkedIn information on there, as well as an invite to an upcoming DAMES roundtable. And if you are one of our dudes on the call today and you want to reach out, I would say connect with Meghann on LinkedIn, and she could probably connect you with some other networking groups that would suit you. Meghann, I've invited a lot of people to the DAMES over the years. I'm an ambassador for the Charleston chapter. I love this group. I love what we do. And I'm always inviting people. And sometimes I invite people who are not qualified. They're not at that six-figure mark yet. I mean, I can tell you what I say, but what would you say to someone who's not qualified yet to be in a group of this caliber with these qualifications? What would you say to someone who is close, or they can't get over that hump?
I guess my question to you is, what would I say to them about what they should do at this point in time?
Yeah.
Get there?
Yeah.
It's every concept that we've already talked about. You just still go and build these relationships, build this rapport. When I was early on in business, in social media specifically, I met a couple of people who had their own social media agencies where they were working with much bigger clients. And I built relationships with them where they would refer me business when it was too small, and I would refer them business when it was too big.
Perfect.
I learned my lane early. So learn your lane early. Stop trying to be all things to all people. Stop trying to be the Jack or the Jill of all trades. And as quickly as you can, figure out what your passion, your expertise, and your economic potential is within a niche. Niche up, don't be afraid, and really get clear on what that niche is that you are so passionate about you never want to quit. And start moving in that direction, and you will grow.
So I'm going to get us a little woo here, because I am woo adjacent. I was woo curious, now I'm woo adjacent. I think it is the energy that you put out that also you will see come back towards you. So when you talk about reciprocity, it's not tit for tat.
No.
But connecting people, inviting people, including people. I mean, that's my whole business is based on connecting people, right? But what I did when I came into the DAMES and took massive action, getting to know as many people as I could, connecting as many people as I could, it led me to become the Dame of the Year for last year.
Yes.
And because of that, because I'm a Dame, I am safe to brag on myself for a minute, because it was such an honor to be nominated by my fellow members for that. And when I made those connections, it wasn't to become this. It wasn't to get, I didn't even know that was a thing until I found out about it. I didn't even know. So it's just about putting the right energy out there, not for what you're going to get back for it, but because, you want to invest in building those relationships and being the best resource that you can to everyone around you.
Yeah. And I would just say that it depends on the reason why I said what I said for first step is because if you don't have your own mask on, your own air mask on, and you don't know who you are, and you haven't done that work to get clear and to get really, I've seen so many entrepreneurs spin their wheels way undercharge because they are not a specialist, because they don't know who their, unique gifts are suited for. They don't do all that work, and then they go start helping other people constantly and without ever feeding themselves. And I did that early on, and I realized when I turned around, I was like, oh my gosh, I have not fed myself, and I have not put my mask on first, and I started trying to put others on. So as soon as you get that clarity, even if it's not 100% clear, even if you're just like, I'm going to try this for a while, I'm going to see how this fits, then go start helping your fellow entrepreneurs and asking them, what is it that you need most right now? If you could meet anyone right now that would help your business, who is that?
Yeah.
And the connector, if that's something you're good at, like you and I are.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen.
I just, I've been networking through childhood, I was networking without realizing I was networking, right? It's just a way to create more relationships and more interpersonal connections, but it's done wrong so many times. And it just doesn't have to be like that. So I thank you for creating community within the Dames, but also for talking about outside of that community, how you can still bring that energy and how you can still bring that same enthusiasm and authenticity and vulnerability to all of those interactions. So thank you again. Meghann's information is in the chat. You guys, please reach out to her. Please join us for a Dames roundtable. If you are in Charleston or anywhere and you want to invite, reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with a local Dames chapter. I'm going to be seeing another Dames chapter in a few weeks here that I'm wicked excited about, if that gives you a little clue to where I'm going.
Woo.
And, I just encourage you to find these people in your life. And again, thank you. You're amazing. You've always held space for everyone. And yes, and you can be a Dame anywhere in the world, even without a local chapter. You can be a virtual Dame, and we've got a lot of those as well. I actually started off as a virtual Dame before our Charleston chapter launched.
That's right. So, thank you for
guys again.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And everybody have the best day ever.